Welcome to The Hop. This is David Charles Allen, realtor at Village Properties in Santa Barbara with my good friend and co-host Patty Teal. How you doing today, Patty?
I'm great, David. The weather here is kind of nippy, but it's really nice, and I'm excited for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's exciting to have, a snow Thanksgiving would be cool, or a snow Christmas as well. I don't think I've experienced one of those yet, so that could be interesting to have one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's not happening in Santa Barbara, that's for sure. So this week's weather, we're looking ahead to, again, mostly sunny days in the mid to high 60s. The swells have been coming in more consistently, so we've had some fun little medium-sized swell days. There looks to be more potential bigger swell on the horizon, so just continue to keep an eye out on the buoys and what's coming in, and have a great time out there.
Yeah, every surfer, be careful, but have fun.
Have fun, that's for sure. So we'll continue with mortgage rates. They haven't changed since the last time we were on. They're 2.75 for conforming 30-year fixed and 2.875 for non-conforming jumbo. So what's interesting is I've actually have a friend of mine who got a refinance rate at 2.6%. So that's interesting because typically refinance rates are higher than your purchase rate. But in this case, it's actually lower than a purchase rate. So you can find those cheaper rates from usually the online loan people like Loan Depot or Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. Now, those companies work great for getting a refinance. They're a little more difficult in terms of using them in your original purchase. Because when you're originally purchasing the home, everything's on a time limit. And if you're competing against multiple offers, agents are going to look at your mortgage coming from one of these guys, and they're not going to know if they're going to be able to perform in the amount of time that's needed to close escrow. So while it's not the best to potentially use these people on your purchase contract, it does seem like you can get a really good refinance rate with them. And then when you're refinancing, the time doesn't matter, essentially. You're not on a strict limit and you're not competing against other people. So it can work great for people looking for a refinance. I would talk to a specialist or a realtor about using it on a purchase contract.
Boy, that's good advice, David. A lot of people have refinanced and they've cut their expenses down quite a bit.
Yeah, if you're refinancing from 3.5% down to 2.5%, you're saving a couple $100 at least every month, $1,000 a year. And then you're looking over 30 years of your mortgage, depending how long it is, you're saving tens of thousands of dollars over the period of your mortgage. So if you can lock it into a low rate, it's definitely worth it. And a lot of these online companies are also doing it, so you just have to pay for the appraisal. Usually refinances can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, and there's a lot of deals going on right now where you just pay for a $500 appraisal and you can get the refinance. And it's a great opportunity for some people.
Boy, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so let's move into the statistics of what's going on in the real estate market this last week. So we have 4 coming soon listings. So that's a huge drop in comparison to 15. We have 36 new listings, another potentially big drop from 51 the week previous, 12 price changes, 50 pendings, and 50 closings. So pendings and closing are staying consistent. We've only down 6 pendings as comparison to last time we're on. But as you can see, we're dropping new listings because this is the slow time of year where a lot of homes aren't coming on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see if the demand stays consistent even during this holiday period, and supply could potentially contract even more because less people want to list their homes now. So we'll just kind of see where it takes us.
Yeah, well, I know you'll keep us updated and posted every week, and we appreciate that.
Yep, we'll keep you updated right here. Today we have a great guest and one I'm very excited about, veterinarian Dr. Kirstin Jorgenson. How you doing, Kirstin?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So growing up in Healdsburg with a bunch of animals on the farm, how early did you know when you wanted to become a vet?
Honestly, as soon as I knew I needed a job, when you grew up, that's what you wanted to do. So it was a pretty, I've been extremely lucky that it actually worked out to get into vet school and that I loved it and still love it, now that I'm on the other side. So I feel very, very lucky that all worked as well as it did.
That's great. Well, tell us a little bit more about growing up on a farm. How was that experience like?
Yeah, so it's kind of always been funny to compare with friends that lived in town. Things like I don't even think to order takeout and have it delivered, because for the longest time no one would ever come to our place. Not that we're that far out, but we're far enough out that they wouldn't deliver pizza or something like that. And then just a whole different mindset of like each morning and each night you have to think about who's home and gonna feed everybody and make sure everything's okay twice a day versus just kind of getting to wander off. And so I think it's an interesting thing to grow up with, that kind of sense of responsibility for something else that's not just another person or something like that, and that connection to it. And then just instilled in me like a huge love of our landscape here in Sonoma County, and feel so blessed to get to live here and be from this area like this and enjoy it every day.
Yeah.
Was it a farm with crops, Kirstin, or was it more like a horse ranch?
It's more of a horse ranch. My mom used to be a trainer and a horse breeder. She's pretty much retired now, and we just have more for personal use and fun. Horses, a lot less. At one point, there were about 35 to 40 horses on the property. Wow. And now we're down to like 8, which is an all-time low. And intermittently, we'll have sheep as well, but no like plant crops. My dad had worked on a hay farm, but that was up in Modoc County, so not here in Healdsburg.
Oh, nice. So being a native of Healdsburg, I'm a native of Santa Barbara, and I haven't left yet. Have you ever thought about living someplace else, or has that ever crossed your mind?
It definitely did. And we as veterinarians, it's a voluntary thing to take an internship, and I really loved that opportunity and ended up living in Connecticut, which I thought was great opportunity to actually see like the other side of the country. And I got to experience 4 seasons and snow and things like that. And so I loved that opportunity. Like I'm very rooted here, but I did want to know what is it like elsewhere, and gain a little deeper appreciation for the place that I live. Because kind of like Santa Barbara, that's a great place. You don't want to leave once you're there. It's hard to get back in.
Exactly. So speaking with you before the show, you let me know you have a passion for helping older dogs, and that's kind of broadened your approach to studying new techniques. How has that worked for you?
It's been great. I love being able to offer so many modalities to just make their lives better, longer, and more comfortable. It used to just be you added arthritis medications, and it was just kind of came to a point where the medications maybe weren't enough. And so to be able to do something like acupuncture that I studied in after school, where there's no side effects to that it only adds to their lives. It won't ever have any downsides to that or side effects that would make their lives worse. That was a huge thing. And then the owner of the clinic where I worked, Dr. Marty Schaefer, invested in a therapeutic laser as well. And so the two of those work really well together to help ease, kind of the normal aches and pains that you can see, especially and cats hide it as well, their arthritis, and then, other speed healing from other injuries as well. And so it's been great to be able to add that without worrying, like I said, about side effects from medications as well.
Yeah.
That's great. I think I mentioned as we were chatting before the show that my dog Otis died a couple of years ago, and he was he was getting up there, 23, 24 years old. I almost lost track there at the end. But his last couple of years, he was paralyzed. They tried to put him on steroids and things, and it made him not feel so good. So I took him to, I'm not sure if I'll get the term right, but it was electrical acupuncture that they did on him.
Acupuncture. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so within acupuncture, there's the dry needles, like we all think of, where you see kind of looks like a pincushion, all the needles and the different acupuncture points. Then there's electroacupuncture, where you can actually use a gentle current through those needles across different points to help stimulate them and speed healing or comfort with that, or like in the cases of paralysis, try to reform kind of those connections in the body. There's also aqua acupuncture, which is usually the injection of like vitamin B or a supplement like that at specific acupuncture points so that they're triggered longer past their treatment session. There's also like moxibustion, which is using kind of burning herbs to help warm and stimulate those spots as well. So, we think of the classic acupuncture with the needles, but there's a lot of different ways to use that, I guess I could say.
Yeah, and Otis would get so relaxed when he went in there. I mean, it's true. I do live in Sedona, and so you might think it's kind of new agey, but they had the room all set up, and they had the soft music playing, and he just would be very at ease. It wasn't like going in and getting on an exam table. So it was really kind of a cool experience for him.
That's the nice thing is we have some patients that come regularly, the older patients, and they, like one of them, she like runs in and lays down on her mat and is just ready to go for her treatments. And so
oh my gosh,
it's so warms your heart to see that, because they just give to us so much all the time. So to be able to give back and keep them comfortable, and we all want our companions with us as long as possible. So
until they're miserable. I knew when it was time for him to go, and I probably kept him around longer than most people would, but I could tell he still ate his food. He still barked when he wanted something, but at one point when he stopped eating and he was in really severe pain, it was like, I can't let him suffer anymore, because he was going to go imminently in the next few days, and I just didn't want it to be miserable. So but you mentioned also a therapeutic laser, so I wondered what kind of laser you use on animals.
So it's not, I think their lasers come in classes. In class 1 is like your laser pointer kind of thing, where it's like, yes, don't point it in your eyes, it is powerful, but the therapeutic laser is a class 4, and it warms the tissue and actually helps activate a lot of the cellular processes within the body to help healing, pain control swelling, those sorts of things. And again, without often the side effects of like steroids, like you said, or some of those other medications. And so that can be done periodically to help with pain or wounds, lots of different treatments.
Oh, nice. So I was going to ask you about how the results you've seen, but you kind of mentioned the dog was so excited to come back and lay down and have at it again. Has that been pretty consistent where people keep coming back to these kind of things?
It has, unfortunately, in a sense, it's kind of like a medication that way, in that, I can't just do treatments once or twice and then they're cured forever. Exactly. A lot of times these chronic issues like this, they need to come back and visit, but we often do kind of like a loading dose in a sense, where I'll see them once a week for 3 to 5 weeks. And then we kind of wait, and I like owners to let me know. And most of them come back and say, we went 2 weeks, and then I noticed they weren't jumping up like they had been, or then I noticed, they didn't come and greet me at the door quite the same way, or something like that. And then we can start to tailor for that patient how often they would need treatments to help keep them that comfortable.
That's really beautiful. I love
that. Fascinating. And can you use that same kind of treatment, both the laser and the acupuncture, on horses as well?
Yeah. And the horses are kind of even like some of the dogs and cats that I've treated. It's very funny. I have some of my horses love acupuncture, and so I'll needle them and I'll go and I'll do something else, and they just take a nap and they're happy as a clam. And one of my horses, she absolutely hates it. She's very sensitive, and so we just don't do it. And I can do acupressure, which is using just fingertips to create pressure at the sites of the acupuncture points, and that's less stimulating than the needles. And they also quite enjoy the laser as well, just for, again, that kind of warming, soothing sensation that it has.
Wow. So how many pressure points are in a dog, so to say? Is everyone different, or does every dog have the same amount of pressure points?
So they do have the same amount of acupuncture points throughout their body. And, I probably am supposed to remember how many there are, and it's in the hundreds.
Say a number, we won't know the difference.
So, yeah, probably kind of close to bones. I want to say 200 or 300 points.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing in studying this is that there are points that they found on these specific species. Like in the history of acupuncture, horses were very important, for your mobility and working on the farm and things like that. And so they have some points specific to them. And then there are points that are actually the points on people that they found by treating people, and they transpose them to dogs and cats and horses and rabbits and, whatever you want to treat. And so there's this kind of interesting meld of all these points where, some I can find on me, and then I can find on the dog, and they're the same point and they have the same action. And then there's some others that are very specific to that species from their research.
The average veterinarian, or the typical, I should say, don't know if there's an average, but probably doesn't know the methodology and hasn't had the training that you've had. Have you had to take separate courses or study on your own to learn about all these specialties?
Yeah, so in veterinary school, they did give kind of a brief little like, hey, this is out there, and that kind of is what sparked my interest, is like a neurologist who had done a lot of research and was not your like typical holistic medicine kind of person, was like, I think there's something to acupuncture. I've done a little research, I can block its effects with medications that I have, and I know what they do. And so it's starting to be discussed. They don't have the time, unfortunately, to like teach it to us. And so typically when you have a veterinarian that does acupuncture, is that we've taken a course, and there are a couple of schools in this country out after vet school or during vet school to get certification afterwards from these different institutes that teach acupuncture. So that's at this point kind of how that comes around. And so besides my whole DVM, I have also what's called a CVA, or I'm certified in veterinary acupuncture. And those are a couple extra letters that I can put on the end of all the other letters to show that I do that too, if I need to. But
and
yeah.
I have a feeling it will become more and more popular
in
the years to come as more and more people explore alternative ways to provide healing.
It's been exciting, like even within pet insurance. Like one of my clients got coverage for her acupuncture treatments with that. So it is becoming more, not necessarily maybe mainstream, but very accepted, which is great.
Wow. Is there any other kind of alternative medicine you have your eye on looking ahead to study?
Potentially, I may look. They have, through the institute I studied with, they call it Tui Na, but it's essentially Chinese chiropractic work or body work. And so that might be an interesting route to go. Again, just kind of that physical rehabilitation sort of aspect, especially for horses, since competitive horses, their fitness, their soundness is so important. That's a place that it can help a lot of people, just to kind of achieve their goals and their dreams that way by keeping everybody happy and comfy.
Yeah, that's amazing. So do you guys get specialized when you go to vet school in diet? Is that an extra specialty you have to go out and cure? Or is that something that's trained? Because I know everyone you go to always recommends something different.
Yeah, and that's a tricky thing. Like we study nutrition in school, just as you have to have it. And then I think some of those specific recommendations come a little bit from your personal experience after school and a bit during school. I went to UC Davis, and they were very good about the nutrition center had pretty much all of the well-researched foods available to us to use, and would even consult to create home-cooked diets for owners. So that kind of let us play with all these different brands and these different types and see them in action. But I think you do get a little bit, as we all do in everything in life, you get changed a little bit by your personal experiences and what works well for you. And so while one vet looks and leans heavily on one brand and another on a different one, that comes up, I think, quite a lot more so after school than during school.
That makes sense. Do you see a lot more people shifting to homemade diets for their animals?
They're definitely trying to. It's a scary situation because there is no way to just cook all the ingredients that you need to balance a diet for your pet at home. They almost always have to be supplemented with their vitamins and minerals. And I think people tend to forget that. We also tend to think about our dogs as carnivores, and they're not strict carnivores. Cats are more so. Dogs are actually a bit of an omnivore, and they need a bit of greens in there and maybe a bit of carbs and those sorts of things. And so it can be, I guess, too, this is a personal thing in that for me, it's hard enough to cook for myself. So I don't want to try and cook for my pets as well and worry about their nutrition. So, I like the commercial diets that I'm familiar with and comfortable with because I know that there is a veterinary nutritionist, somebody who did specialize in that. They balanced out that diet. They even fed it to dogs or cats before it hit the market. And I know it keeps pets healthy. And so that simplifies a few things in my life for me, which is nice.
Yeah, this is self-serving because I told you one of my dogs is already 20 years old and slowing down. But, you hear about glucosamine or this or that. Are there any supplements that you think are really important for aging dogs?
My preference is for fish oil or the omega-3 type supplements.
Okay.
And you can even honestly just use human fish oils, trying to get, again, that omega-3 aspect of it. Because there's some research about that being highly anti-inflammatory. And so that you can do, and it's usually higher doses than, say, the normal pet supplements might want to tell you to give, where you're, close to, depending on the size, but somewhere around 500 or even higher milligrams of just the omega-3, which is a component of the fish oil.
So you open up a person's capsule and just put it right in your dog's food?
Yeah, quite a bit of that. And I think the capsules that tell you the breakdown of omega-3 versus omega-6 in their fish oil, those are the higher quality ones, and the higher that omega-3 is, the better. And that's one that I think, for me, having read and followed some of the research, the glucosamine and chondroitin, there's some thought, maybe it gets too digested when they eat that to really impact the cartilage as much, but it can help. And now there's just a slew of other things looked at, like turmeric and green lip mussels and things like that, where I haven't been able to keep up with that almost, really, that can help quite a bit. And so some brands will kind of combine all that, or a lot of them will now, to really help, to where like glucosamine and chondroitin have come kind of like the old guard, like, and have been passed by some of our research in that. So.
Interesting.
Right. So do you have any recommendations to make your companion's life better?
I think, well, one, you got to love your companion and respect what they want, keeping their lives happy. I think preventative care is usually your best option. So following, depending on where you're at, because it probably not so much in Arizona, I don't know, but heartworm is an issue here in Sonoma County, which is carried by mosquitoes. So people try to say, well, my dog doesn't go outside, or it's not around other dogs. But this is a very potentially deadly parasite carried by these mosquitoes when they bite dogs and either feed off other dogs that are infected, or the coyotes or things in our area. And that has the opportunity, if they get infected, to severely limit their lifespan, versus just an easy preventative of either a chewable once a month, or now there's a year-round injection that prevents it. So following things like that and monitoring dental health and weight, I think especially their weight and keeping them in a healthy weight range, those are the kinds of things that really just help your pet live as long and happy a life as possible. Then good fortune.
little luck involved there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we're going on and on, but we
That's
just
okay.
have so many questions, and then we haven't even gotten to the horses yet. But um, someone told me that some of the immunizations dogs are getting over immunized, perhaps just like kids, and that there's a way to test so that they're not getting too much in their system. Is that something that you look into?
So at our practice, we ask every time, with each annual exam, what is your pet doing, your dog or your cat, to help tailor which vaccines they need for their lives in what they're doing. Because sometimes one dog's at risk of things that other dogs aren't. And that helps tailor that a lot. I think you're talking about titers where they check immune function. And unfortunately, our research doesn't always line up that those measurements equal the best immune response. And so we have a hard time just reading those and being like, oh, well, they don't need to be vaccinated again, because it's still not quite clear how that works. And I think that's a difficult one, because your average veterinarian, to kind of go back to that, they are definitely looking to just do the vaccines your pet needs without overdoing it. I think sometimes there's some of the programs where you're not really talking to your veterinarian, where you're just kind of stopping by and getting vaccines done, or say buying them from the pet store or something like that, then there's a risk that they're getting potentially over vaccinated, because that's more of a program where it's just we're making it one size fits all and not tailoring it to that individual. So I think if you have a good relationship with your veterinarian, the majority are not, I think, aggressively over pushing vaccines. They're just trying to keep them at what we believe to be the best for your pet in that situation.
Right. And what about your writing? You write every day?
I wish. Right now it's not so often. I'm a little bit tied up. I don't yet. My big dream in the future is to have a riding arena that's covered with lights, so that I'm not stuck when the sun goes down, not being able to ride. And so, now with the short days and working long days at work, I don't always get to ride, but I have ridden pretty much my entire life and love to ride. So I try to ride as much as I can and really enjoy it, and do a little bit of competition when I have a horse that I feel, that we are suited to that. Like we have a good connection and they're talented and we enjoy it. Otherwise, I mainly ride dressage, which is kind of the boring Olympic horse sport that you might watch, where the most fun is when they do their musical freestyles, kind of like figure skating, where they get to pick their own music and pick when they do their movements. But realistically, it's a very it fits my OCD kind of nicely. It's a very subtle,
very precise.
Yeah. And it's not like all the big jumps where you're like, yeah, we could die. It's just kind of like, nope, we're trying to be very pretty and very perfect, which is completely unattainable as human beings with horses. But, we always have this goal in mind. And it's about a connection to your horse, which that part is what I really love, is that, it's the emphasis behind it is that I connect to the horse, and that I make them, or not make them, but we're able to communicate in a way that the movements and the actions that we do seem, as close to effortless as possible. And that I'm each day with training them, trying to make them stronger, make them, better than they were the day before, fitter, more balanced, and things like that. So that's, what I love about it is it's dressage can be a little bit more of a sport that you're in your head a lot, which is fun.
Do you feel like the horses ever train you a little bit?
Oh my goodness, every time. Yes. You learn, every horse you ride, teaches you something too, just in how to ask or not ask, or just everything. Oh yeah. I've learned, I have right now, my old man is about 34, somewhere in there, and he has taught me so much. He's taught many, many riders, generations of riders, since we've had him over the last 20 years or so much about how to ride and how to be with horses. And so, we owe him so much.
That's beautiful. So can you tell us a little bit more about the companions you share your life with?
Yeah, so right now I would say my main man is Percy, he's just like a little mutt. I don't know how to describe him. I sometimes say he looks like a cross between a frilled lizard and a rat. Uh, but he gets to come with me to work. He's got a little bed right next to my desk, and so he patrols for crumbs and gets belly rubs to make everybody happy. And he also loves to patrol the ranch. We have a big Anatolian shepherd named Angus, and they're the big white dogs that help protect livestock. And so Angus loves to just stay on the ranch, but Percy will come home and they'll go on a big patrol. So it's really adorable because Angus is like 115 pounds and like 3 feet at his shoulder practically. Is a huge dog. And then there's this little tiny 9-pound dog next to him. And so they run all around. And my mom has her little miniature collie, essentially a Shetland sheepdog named Ash, and he's her companion everywhere. And we typically have cats both in the house and in the barn. And that's at this point kind of my little companion animals besides the horses.
That's so amazing.
Sounds like they're having a great life. I just can picture it. I want to live that life if I come back next time as a dog.
Yeah, right?
They get to do quite a bit. I think Percy really enjoys his balance between napping on, beds anywhere in the house, wherever he wants all the time, plus, the outdoor life. He's really enjoying it.
Yeah, that sounds really special. So what do you do besides work that makes your life so beautiful, Kirstin?
I think, I enjoy my time on the ranch, the riding, even just sometimes the mundane stuff like fixing fences or cleaning stalls or whatever. That's
building a shed.
Yeah. That'll be prettier on the other end of it, I think. It'll be great. I know. All these things. It's been this last year, I'd mentioned we had been burned over in the Kincaid fire. And so this last year has been quite an adventure in terms of like kind of rebuilding and what you have. And, I'm extremely thankful we were all off the property when the fire came, all the critters and people. And so we were all safe. And the firefighters are amazing. They kept our house intact, and worked really hard up here. So that it's been more work because we did lose our barn. And so we, trying to readjust from that has been a lot, but still, people are like, oh, aren't you going to move out after that? And I'm like, nope, I know we could burn again. We're going to be smarter. And I still love it so much here. And this is, where my roots are that I don't want to leave. So even just a joy to see the sunsets.
Oh,
yeah, I can hear in your voice, very positive outlook on everything.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Kirstin. Well, it was great having you on today. Thank you so much.
We loved it. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. I'm glad to help out. I love your mom, David. So
there you go.
We all love David's mom. Yes.
No.
Anyway, go ahead,
David. You want to give a shout out to your practice or how people can get over you?
Yeah, so I currently work at Memorial Beach Veterinary Hospital, which I believe our website is memorialbeachvethospital.com. And we're here in Healdsburg, right by the bridge, hence the Memorial Beach part of that. And we're open Monday through Saturday, always trying to help out. I tend to specialize or see mainly dogs and cats. We've even got a vet. Some of the other vets will see things like chickens or birds or reptiles, that sort of thing. And so, kind of as we discussed, there's a bunch of us there trying to help your pets live as long and healthy and happy lives as possible.
That's amazing.
Like a very special practice. Thank you so much, Kirstin. It was just a pleasure to talk to you today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we're looking ahead to next week and give it a go then.
Yes, we'll give it a go next week. Thank you so much, David. It's been fun.
All right, Patty. Great having you. Bye.
Bye.